Hello, so this will just be some examples of more complex indirect derivation problems. So, here we have our conclusion. So, we have a show line, we should always make an assumption. Let's say assume ID. Oh. That's the negation of a conditional. What are we going to do with that? I know, we'll do dn. Oh, that's garbage. So, we didn't make the right assumption. Because we're trying to show a conditional, we want to make a conditional assumption. Okay, if you're trying to show a conditional, make a conditional assumption always. Don't make the indirect assumption. Bad idea. When you make an indirect assumption, if you're trying to show a conditional, you're going to make an indirect assumption. What's that going to be? It's going to be the negation of the conditional you're trying to show. What are you going to do with a negated conditional? Nothing. I mean, there are things you could do, but no. Make an indirect. Make the conditional assumption. Okay, so now we made our conditional assumption. Are there any premises? No, this is a theorem. There are no premises. Can we apply elimination rules? No. So the derivation is stuck. What do we do when the derivation is stuck? I know we do a subderivation. We're trying to show a conditional. What subderivation do? We do show consequent, because once we get this, once we box and cancel this, we'll say 3cd, and we'll be done with the whole derivation. So good. Now, let's make another assumption. Are we trying to show a conditional? No, so we cannot do assume CD. So we have to do assume ID. So let's do assume ID. Okay, so now we have P and Q. So let's split that up. We have P and Q. Okay, well now we would like to get those to interact with line 2 if we can. They won't as they stand, because we need MTP works with line 2. For MTP, we need the negations of the disjuncts. So we need the negation of negation P, so we need negation P. Or we need the negation of negation Q, so we need negation Q. We don't have either of those, but we can get either of them. Let's say 5dn gives us negation P. So we can say 2, 7 MTP, and we have not Q. Do we have a contradiction? Yes, we do. 6 and 8 contradict one another, Q and not Q, so we say indirect derivation. Good. 3 is the consequent of line 1, so we can say 3cd. Good to go. So this illustrates that we need to pay attention to what kind of assumption we want to make, and always pay attention. Do I have a contradiction? Do I have a contradiction? Oh, I do. Good, I'm done. And then we write down, well, the contradiction is on line 6 and 8. That lets us box and cancel line 3, which lets us box and cancel line 1. Okay, let's look at the next derivation. Oh, that's not what I wanted to do. What's going on here? That's what we want. Okay, good, that's better. So, show the conclusion. Okay, we want to make an assumption. We cannot make a conditional assumption, so we'll make an indirect assumption instead. Good. Now we'll bring in our two premises. We want to apply our elimination rules. Well, there's that conjunction, so let's split it up. Let's see if we can use lines 5 and 6 with 3 and 4. Yes, we can. Line 3 is a conditional. Its antecedent is P, so we need P for modus ponens, and we have that on line 5. So we can say 3, 5 modus ponens. We get Q. Now, so we've used 2 and 3. Now we want to see if we can use 4. And there are actually two things we can do with 4. We could do modus ponens with 4 and 7, or we could do a double negation with 6 and then do MT. So let's first do it with the modus ponens way. So we'll say 4, 7, MP, and we get not R. Oh, hey, we have a contradiction with 6 and 8. So we're done. That's pretty nice. But we also, instead, could have said, oh, well, look, there's 6 on line 6. I have R for modus tollens. For MT with line 4, I need negation R. I can get negation R. So I can say 4, 7, MT. Have not Q. Oh, I deleted too much. Whoops. Let's try that again. Okay, so we had P and we had R, and then we had done modus ponens 3, 5. There, good. Sorry. So now let's use 6 with 4. So we say 6dn, and then we say 4, 8 MT, and we get not Q. And no, there's another contradiction, 7, 9 ID. So in the previous one, we had a contradiction with R and not R. Here we have a contradiction with Q and not Q. So you can see that there are different, when you are doing an indirect derivation, there are going to be different ways to get to different contradictions, and any are fine. As long as you get to a contradiction, that's all you need, you're good to go. Was it the quickest? Was it or not the quickest? Who knows? Was it the best contradiction? There is no best contradiction. All contradictions are as good or as bad as any others. So, just to see that there are different ways to get contradictions. And finally, we'll look at this problem. Okay. We want to make an assumption. Can't do a conditional assumption, so it's an indirect assumption. Good. Let's put in our premises. Okay, now, so line 3 is the line we really care about. And line 3 has, we can really try to do two things with it. It's a conditional. The antecedent is P or Q. The consequent is R. So we could apply modus tollens right off the bat, and we get not P or Q. Now what should we do? Well, we're trying to do an indirect derivation. That's how we started. And if we could get a contradiction, then we'd be good. So if we could get R, we'd have a contradiction. That would be nice. But also line 5 is not P or Q. So if we could get P or Q, we'd be done. Line 2 is P, so if we could get not P, we'd be done. Well, what about if we could get P or Q? If we could get P or Q, we'd have a contradiction. And, well, we can get P or Q because we can use addition with line 2. We can say add, and we'll put the Q where the Z goes. So we'll put the Q there, and we'll put Q, and there we have a contradiction. Oh, my mouse is messed up. We're going to jump out for just a second. So there's our contradiction 5, 6, ID. And there we go. So sometimes you have to think. The contradiction doesn't just emerge from your applying inference rules. You have to think about it and create it by using your introduction rules. Now there's a different way to do this derivation. Oops, that's not where I wanted that. Let's see. Okay, there we go. How did I want this to go? I wanted these together. You might have noticed, oh, the consequent 3 is a conditional. Its consequent is R. 4 is not R. So if I could apply modus ponens to line 3, I could get a contradiction between R and not R. And you'd think, well, to apply MP, I need the antecedent. The antecedent is P or Q. Oh, I can get P or Q by adding Q on the right. So you get P or Q, and then 3, 5 modus ponens, and then we would have a contradiction with 4 and 6 ID. So there are always multiple ways to do indirect derivations, and sometimes you have to think about it. You have to either say, oh, where's the contradiction going to emerge? Oh, R or not R, how can I get R? Or, oh, there's that not P or Q, can I get P or Q? So you have to be asking yourself sometimes, not just is there a contradiction, but, oh, can I make a contradiction? Okay. So that's the end of this video. If you have any questions about indirect derivations or otherwise, please let me know. Good luck with your homework.